here. And so I have some fresh cilantro. And cilantro is an absolutely delicious herb. It's used a lot in Mexican and Latin cooking. It gives a really nice taste, and it's also excellent for detoxifying heavy metals in the body. It's great for, if you're removing your amalgam mercury fillings, it helps to detoxify the mercury. So when I had my amalgam fillings removed last year, I ate a ton of cilantro. Like every salad has cilantro. Here, I'm going to grab my cilantro. Bring it to this side. And I soaked my walnuts overnight. And so why did I soak my walnuts overnight? Nuts and seeds need to be soaked because they have enzyme inhibitors that make it very difficult to digest them. Just like a squirrel, when a squirrel gets the acorns, the squirrel doesn't eat the acorns right away. The squirrel buries them in the ground. And the reason is to moisten them. To moisten them because the squirrel has the natural instinct that they will be more digestible, those nuts, when they're wet. And so these walnuts are going to be easier to digest because they were soaked overnight, releasing those enzyme inhibitors. So I have here a full cup of soaked walnuts. And I am going to process the walnuts first by themselves, because if you put them in later, which I've done many times, they don't process as well. So I want them to be first.
What's the minimum amount of time they should be soaked?
And the walnuts are the base of the taco filling, so it's important that they be well browned.
Karen, what's the minimum amount you can soak them? The minimum amount of time to soak them?
It's different for some of the nuts, like pine nuts and macadamia nuts, only need a few hours of soaking. But the nuts like walnuts and almonds and pecans and hazelnuts, all of those nuts need really to be soaked overnight in water, and then the next day the water should be poured out, because the water contains those enzyme inhibitors that makes it difficult to digest the nuts. And seeds as well. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. Okay, so now we're going to check, and they are already pretty nicely ground up. I'm going to just push down from the side. I'm going to put in my chopped cilantro. And I'm going to put in some finely chopped red onion.
Can you just move the Vitamix container?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put in some red onion. I'm also going to put in about a half cup of soaked sun-dried tomatoes. These tomatoes have no sulfur in them. I made sure of that. Got them at Whole Foods Ridgewood. You do not want sulfur in your tomatoes. Usually the tomatoes that are not organic contain high levels of sulfur. So I'm going to do like about half a cup. So I'm going to do like a packed half cup of sun-dried tomato. We're going to make a marinara sauce afterwards, so I want to save some of my sun-dried tomatoes for that. Love sun-dried tomatoes. So here's a pretty packed half a cup. So I'm going to put those in, and then I'm going to put in a few spices. I already have fresh cilantro, but I'm also going to put in a teaspoon each of dried coriander, paprika, and cumin. These are mild spices, and they really give it such a nice taste. I've prepared these romaine burritos for years, and I do a lot of raw food sponsored events for Whole Foods and other stores, and usually get a nice reaction to these romaine burritos. Okay, I'm going to take off the top since it's not coming out that easily.
When you've soaked your nuts and seeds, do they really need to be eaten that day? You can't...
Within a couple days.
A couple of days, isn't it?
And you also must know, this is something that is so important, and I wish I knew this 2 decades ago when I went to the raw food lifestyle. Nuts and seeds are very sensitive to heat, light, and oxygen, and they go rancid very quickly. So it's best not to heat them. It is best also to soak them in the refrigerator and to keep your nuts and seeds in the freezer.
The sensitive to what? Light? The sensitive to what?
Heat, light, and oxygen. So you want to keep them, when you're storing them, you should keep them in the freezer. Okay, so I have cumin in, and put a little bit more coriander.
I used to keep them in the refrigerator, but I didn't know the freezer.
And I'm going to put some paprika, about a teaspoon of paprika. And, lemon juice. So you want to juice about a half a cup of lemon juice. So for this, I think we use 2 pretty large lemons to get all that lemon juice. So I'm going to put that in too. And now I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it on full because I want it nicely processed. Again, I'm going to scrape down the sides to make sure that it all gets processed. And I just also want to say that the best way to eat raw food is to eat it whole. So a lot of people say to me, oh, it's too complicated, I can't do raw food, I don't have the time for it. And I say, are you kidding? Just grab an apple. You know, I mean, that's the quickest raw food there is. It's the quickest fast food. You can eliminate fast food restaurants just by grabbing fruits and vegetables. Sometimes for my kids, I just made a delicious dip and they would eat all their sliced veggies. We made a delicious dip, cucumber dill dip that the kids loved, and they would, you know, sit and eat loads and loads of vegetables with that. And this taco filling can also be used as a dip. This is going to give us, is it critical, or if I should add anything else? Good? Okay, great. So we're going to take some of that for each romaine lettuce leaf. This is our wrap, okay? And then you'll each get to taste a romaine burrito.